Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome to the China Business Essentials webinar series. This is the second one in the series. Today, we're going to be talking about supercharging employee performance in China. Okay, so this is all a function of having China leadership dilemmas that we talk about in a lot of our webinars and a lot of our training. But today we're really going to focus on why most foreigners find it really kind of challenging, frustrating, and complex to be able to manage employees in China. Okay, so again, welcome. My name is Gene. Some people may be watching this live in Facebook, or if you want to click over, because Facebook's probably going to stop in about 15 minutes, you can click over on the Zoom link and you'll be able to see the PowerPoint presentation in the background, and you'll be able to do the Q&A with me after the webinar is over. All right. So today's discussion is focused on managing Chinese employees. Okay. So anybody who is doing business in China, any non-Chinese person who is assigned to work in China as an expat manager probably has some experience working with Chinese employees. Whether that experience is ones that report directly to you or ones that are working in China that you have to kind of work with, or even if you are based overseas and you manage Chinese suppliers, partners, and employees from remote, you've no doubt encountered some really things that frustrate you, things that kind of make you want to pull your hair out. Okay, so when I was working in China, I would frequently talk to a lot of foreigners who always ask me different questions on why can't my Chinese employees do this? Why can't my Chinese employees do that? Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the three most common frustrating things that you may encounter managing employees in China. Okay, so what is that? Okay, so when foreigners are going to China and they start dealing with leading or managing Chinese employees, they most common things that they encounter are these. And of course, there's a lot more, and each one of these can go into different details and different iterations. But broadly speaking, a lot of times foreign managers are frustrated when their employees go silent. Okay, so this happens when something goes wrong, the factory, the production, the production line has stopped, and you need to find out what happened. Okay, you lost an order, you need to find out what happened. The price was increased by a supplier, you need to find out what happened. There's a whole bunch of different things that you may be seeking answers to. And when you have a tendency to ask somebody who is supposed to be responsible for that item, you get silence. And you can't really seem to get the answers that you need. Not that you want to blame anybody, but you really just want to solve the problem and figure out how to avoid that problem in the future. Okay, so that's a common situation. Another one is, and this happens more and more often, it didn't really happen at all like 10 years ago, foreigners working in China. But in today's China, and this is the trend in China, is you often may get employees that are actually argumentative, even confrontational. And when you push them on answers and the conversation is spiraling out of control, what happens is you're getting what you perceive as excuses as opposed to answers. And it can actually become very contentious, the discussion. And that's something that almost would never happen 10 years ago. But in modern China, especially with younger employees who feel more empowered because China has gotten stronger on the global stage, they feel less and less that they have something to learn from foreigners. And we'll get into that a little bit later. Now, the biggest issue that foreign managers encounter with Chinese employees is that they leave. They resign. So it's pretty common knowledge if you're in China that one of the biggest challenges is strategic human resource management. How do you develop your people performance systems to increase employee loyalty and decrease the amount of attrition? And what's even worse is, especially if you're working for a smaller company in a niche industry, is when your employees quit or leave and they end up going to a competitor. Because even if you have some non-compete or confidentiality agreements in place, they're really, really difficult to enforce in China, especially for mid-level employees. And those are the ones who are typically Chinese. And those are the ones who typically have a tendency to quit or resign if you don't have the right strategies to retain them and to make them productive. Okay, so what we're going to do on today's webinar is we're just kind of talk through these three common occurrences one by one, so you can start to well, if you're into the training that we're developing, 6 essential steps to crush it in China, there are 3 things that you need to kind of develop in order to crush it in China. One of them is a mindset for China business. The other is developing the essential soft skills that matter, and of course, becoming a master of cross-cultural performance. So all of these things, you'll notice I use the word develop. These are not things that can be taught. These are things that you have to develop, and you can do that through examples and through case studies and also through coaching. And we're going to really talk more about that as we move forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a lot of kind of reasons why you encounter employees going silent, and a little bit about what you might be able to do to kind of avoid that in the future. Okay. So first of all, when we talk about why, we also have to make a statement that when you're talking about China, which is huge, it's 1.4 billion people, age, the demographics of age makes a huge difference on what the attitudes and the mindsets are of your Chinese employees. So the tendency to go silent, I would say, is more with employees who are kind of 25 years and older. And that's generally because they have a completely different experience growing up than their younger comrades. All right. So when these group of people, when they go silent, okay, so this is one of the reasons I'm going to have to stop the PowerPoint, and I'm going to have to start it again because the graphics card is maybe not strong enough and that graphic didn't come up. So sorry for the little bit of a pause. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Now it's working. Okay, so the reason that a lot of your employees will go silent, there's a lot of reasons. So I'm going to just kind of give you a couple of the main reasons so you can start to trigger your imagination and really understand why they behave the way they behave, and start to become more empathetic to their behaviors as opposed to judging them and getting upset and getting frustrated yourself. Okay. So the first reason is, I think it's culturally, they're silent often because it's a respect for the hierarchy. Okay, so this is the environment in which they were raised, with their parents, with their teachers, with their government officials. It's basically, they grew up in an environment where people don't want to hear your opinion. They just want you to kind of obey and do what you're told, especially in a work environment. So a lot of times they go silent because it's just culturally what they're accustomed to. It's not that they're afraid to talk. It's just, it's unnatural for them to speak when they are kind of being accused of something, okay? You also have to remember that in the environment in which they grew up, a lot of times the Chinese are punished for speaking, okay? There's a term in Chinese called 罚站. And what does that mean? That means that when people are disciplined in China, and you have to imagine when they're growing up through their school system or even at home, when they are disciplined, and you got to keep in mind they're disciplined when they do something wrong, they're asked to stand in silence, often stand in a corner, but they literally have to stand in silence for hours and hours and hours at a time. And this has just become deeply embedded kind of in their behavior that if they think they've done something wrong, the natural punishment is to stand in silence. It's not to explain what happened, or it's even not really to, it's even less to take responsibility for what happened. So this is cultural, especially in people who I kind of roughly say 25 years and older. Okay. There's another thing that there's in China. There's a people live in a sense of kind of community and conformity. So there's zero incentive traditionally for people to stand out. Okay. And you never wanted to be the one who actually said, okay, well, I will take responsibility for this. That was my fault. Let me kind of figure out what went wrong. That just doesn't happen in Chinese culture, especially when you're talking about people 25, 30 and above. That's just not how they think. That's just not how they operate. And the final thing is they go silent because they feel that it's a loss of face. So when you're asking them, why did this happen? That's directly blaming them for, you must have caused this, and now I need an explanation from you. It is a loss of face traditionally in China for anybody to acknowledge a mistake or be blamed for something. Okay, so these are kind of the reasons. There's a lot more reasons, but these are kind of the general main reasons. And the question is, as a foreign manager, well, what can you do about it? How can you change this dynamic where you're trying to figure out what went wrong, but you can't seem to get answers, and the people that you're asking just tend to go silent? So very generally speaking, and we can get more in this into the Q&A after the keynote, is, well, one of the things is you have to rephrase your inquiry. Okay, this is almost like doing A/B testing with your sales copy. Okay, what converts the best? You have to start changing the way you articulate your need or demand or request for answers. Okay, figure out a better way to get the answers you seek without causing a loss of face and without really going against natural Chinese cultural kind of tendencies. All right. And the second way to do it is get your answers indirectly. Okay. You will discover over a period of time that China oftentimes is a land of contradictions. When people are expressing their opinions, they're really direct. And when they're arguing with each other or they're debating with each other, they seem really direct. But then the way that they negotiate, the way that they communicate is very indirect. And what that means to you is, if you're looking for answers, try to find them in an indirect way. Okay. Maybe don't even ask somebody who doesn't have any responsibility to kind of try to figure out what's going on, and then try to use that information to help the person who is responsible, number one, elevate his role, take greater responsibility, and of course, not be blamed for whatever it is you're seeking answers to. Okay? Very general. There is no one size fits all, and hopefully when we get into the Q&A, we'll get into more detailed discussions about some of these tendencies. Okay? The second one is when your staff or when your employees become argumentative. And it's not just argumentative, it's almost sometimes it can feel like they're even just really confrontational. Okay? It can be scary at times. It can be frustrating, definitely. And the question is, how does that affect you kind of emotionally? Are you able to, keep your cool, have a high level of emotional intelligence or EQ to be able to manage that situation properly? So why does this happen? Okay. And here I would say it would have a tendency to happen more with people who are under the age of 25. And I don't want to be sexist, and I don't want to be stereotypical, but it also may have a tendency to happen with females more than males. And this is a lot, it's cultural too. It's not having a negative gender bias against Chinese who are female, but it just something that is just a kind of a reality. And this is also embedded in the emotions of Chinese people and how they're more emotional, how they care about their face, and how everything's tied to culture and Guanxi and all of that stuff. But if you want to try to talk about it in analytical terms, okay, relatively speaking, Chinese people, they don't really know even what emotional intelligence is. It's a term that is in the lexicon now because foreigners are bringing it in. In Chinese, it's translated to qing sang. Most people kind of know what it is, but nobody really thinks about it when they themselves are reacting in their normal cultural way, which is more emotional. So, but from the foreigner's point of view, you can almost kind of assume that you're dealing with somebody who has a lower EQ. And I'm saying this not in a negative way. It's just that they're more emotional. There's other things that are happening in China, especially with people who are under the age of 25, is when they feel that something is unfair or when they're being unfairly blamed, they're going to feel more emboldened to stand up for themselves. Whereas before, they would just acquiesce. That was what happened 10 years ago. That almost never happens anymore. They're emboldened, and that's because of this undercurrent of nationalism, where they now feel that China is not only the most powerful country in the world, but it's also rising and trending all in upward directions. So there's a lot of factors at play that deal with ego and emotions and emotional intelligence. And it all has to deal with the Chinese perception of what they believe is fair and not fair. And one of the biggest mistakes you can make as a foreigner is to get into a debate about what's fair and what's not fair. Okay, but the primary thing is we talk about this a lot in our training and in our mindset for China business. It's just Chinese people think in a more circular manner. Okay, so if you are trying to get a direct answer to a direct question with your linear thinking logic, that generally will not work. And that's why you get a lot of excuses and arguments, and you get this escalation of kind of a conversation that should not have been contentious to begin with. Okay, so generally speaking, what can you do about it as a foreign manager? Well, there's really only one piece of advice. Just don't engage. Okay, it is a lose-lose situation for you to go down this path and argue with your Chinese counterparts or your Chinese employees. You have to find a different way. You have to be the leader, and you have to set the tone, and you have to establish the culture. Do not engage in a circular debate or a circular argument. You cannot win, and there will not be a good outcome if you cannot control how you engage with your Chinese employees. Okay? Now, the final thing is when they leave. Okay, there's a misspelled word. I'm sorry. When they leave, this is obviously we're talking about employee attrition, when they go to a competitor, when they feel that their compensation is not enough, whatever it is. Okay, again, age, demographics also makes a big difference here in Chinese mentalities. But let me get down to the real reason why Chinese people quit their jobs and go to another company or go to a competitor. And it's probably not what you think. You probably think that they're greedy, they got 5% more from someplace else, and that's why they're leaving. The real reason why they leave generally isn't about money, okay? At least not directly, okay? So let me kind of share with you all the reasons that I've observed why Chinese employees leave. Okay, one is it's kind of like a sort of peer pressure, okay? It has to do with their face. If they see the people that they graduated with, their former classmates, if they're changing jobs and they're getting promotions and they're changing jobs and getting more salary, that is the reason why your direct reports may have a tendency to change jobs. Yes, there is money tied into it, but that's not really the primary reason. The primary reason is face, okay? If you're working in certain industries, certain really like high-tech industries like pharmaceuticals or biotech or semiconductors or artificial intelligence or big data or blockchain, augmented reality, all of these really high-tech, leading-edge industries, okay? What happens in China now is these industries are moving so fast is that it's become a buyer's market, okay? There is not enough talent to go around, so the talent that you have will have a lot of options, which makes it more important for you to kind of really figure out what is the best way to retain your employees. Okay. There's another situation that's happening more at a macro level, and that is that there is, employees have kind of almost become a commodity in China now because there are just so many recruiters and headhunters that are just trying desperately to find anyone who even has the slightest inclination of dissatisfaction with their company. And in typical Chinese fashion, these recruiters and headhunters will promise more benefits, more compensation, higher level employment, higher level within the organization, higher titles, and of course, greater responsibility. They're just going to promise all of that right on the front end, whether they can deliver it or not, just to kind of go fishing. Find out who has a little bit of doubt that they may want to switch jobs. And that's just the reality of the recruiting and headhunting industry in China. It's just a really, really competitive, kind of like dog-eat-dog environment, okay? So you just have to be able to manage your communications with your employees to really kind of understand when and if that's happening. And of course, if you can just give them no reason to leave and the perception that they're not going to find anything better somewhere else, then that's really the key. Now, depending on the level that you are and depending on the level of the employee, a lot of times, okay, I've experienced this a lot of times through connections and talking with other people. You may be the expat manager, but below you, you will have other local Chinese kind of director level people. So these are Chinese leaders that are part of your organization. And a lot of times, they still manage their direct reports. And this is probably a level, 2 levels, or 3 levels below you. They still manage them like Chinese employees, which means they promote them and give them benefits only when the Chinese employees give them face and acquiesce to what they say. And in Chinese, there's a term that's called pai ma pi. Okay, that just means that the Chinese employees will always tell your kind of their director level people what they want to hear because that is the way for them to get promoted. Your direct level managers are still very, very traditional Chinese in the way they're thinking. They're probably in their 40s. So they still think very much like traditional Chinese hierarchical management systems. And if you don't retrain them properly, they are one of the primary reasons why 2 levels below you, you cannot retain those employees. And I can tell you one thing, those 360 evaluations that you use in other parts of the world, they really will not work in China. And there's many, many reasons why. You do them because you have to, but the insights that they provide are almost meaningless and valueless, okay? And the thing that most foreign managers can't differentiate is even when your employees are talking to you or your director level, higher level leaders are talking to you, is you can't differentiate between real Guanxi and superficial Guanxi, okay? And that's one of the things that you have to really learn to differentiate when we talk about the essential soft skills that matter and developing a mindset for China business. Okay, so what can you do about it? Okay, what can you do about employee attrition and solving these China leadership dilemmas that you have? Okay, it's pretty simple. One is you have to be empathetic. Okay, so empathy is one of the essential soft skills that matter. You really have to understand what Chinese people value and how they feel based on the way that you communicate with them, the way that you lead them, the way that you've established the internal culture within the organization. And this was in module 2 of the 6 essential steps to crush it in China, you have to be able to develop real Guanxi relationships. And this is what we have to contrast. Most foreigners are in this eternal honeymoon period where they're getting all this superficial Guanxi, and they don't understand that it's actually not real Guanxi. And unless you understand how to differentiate between real Guanxi and superficial Guanxi, you're going to always be challenged with managing your local Chinese employees. Okay, so let me summarize real quick before we get into the Q&A. When you lead your local Chinese employees, there are several things that you really, really need to do. And all of them have to do with things that you have to develop as a leader yourself to navigate this complex and often dichotomous multicultural environment. Okay, so the first thing is you have to develop greater context and perspective about China business and about Chinese culture. Okay, so that is what we call developing a mindset for China business. The second thing is you have to be able to develop empathy for what Chinese people value and how they feel when you are interacting with them. Empathy is one of the essential soft skills that matter, and this is also something that you have to develop if you really, really want to crush it in China, as we say. And the third thing is you really have to develop a new approach. Okay, a new approach, sometimes we call it our MO, our modus operandi. In our training, in the 3 transformational pillars to crush it in China, it's basically a mindset for China business, the essential soft skills that matter. And the third one is, of course, developing a mastery of cross-cultural performance, which basically means you are managing the perceptions of the people that you are interacting with in the strategy or in order to achieve more favorable outcomes. Okay, so all of these things that will enable you to more successfully manage your employees in China, this is kind of what we talk about in module 1 of the 6 essential steps to crush it in China. These are the 3 pillars for transformational success in China. We talked about a lot of things, and one of the things that we talked about is you cannot learn these things. I cannot teach you these things. These are things you have to develop. And one of the ways that you can develop these is we've added a coaching program, China Business Advisory Group Coaching Program, to accompany the course. Okay, you can take the course by itself and you will learn some things and you can try to practice a lot of the exercises that we do in each module. But the real way is actually to do it through coaching. And we're going to kind of do a sample of that with the Q&A after this webinar. But you can see that in January, we've already posted all of the links. So if you sign up for coaching, you'll get all of the links and all of the schedules in which we'll do group coaching. And what we're going to do is we're going to really try to keep these group coaching sessions not too big, because once they get too big, then you're just listening and you don't have as much chance to interact. So once we get more people into the coaching program, more people signed up for this course, we'll continue to add more sessions. But right now, this is the schedule for January. All right. And what I really want to introduce is all of this that we've talked about. You can really kind of learn all the details on the 6 essential steps to crush it in China. This is an online course that was just released. Okay, it basically goes through all of these modules, the 3 pillars for transformational success, the Guanxi engine. We talk about managing perceptions and misperceptions, developing the essential soft skills that matter, becoming a master of cross-cultural performance, and in module 6, your new modus operandi, your new approach to crush it in China or any multicultural environment. All right, so this is the course, and for those of you who are on this webinar, today we are offering kind of like a coupon code, and I'm going to minimize this kind of screen of myself, for the next 24 hours. If you use the coupon code MINDSET, Okay, you will get the entire course for $100 off, so that's only $97. You're going to get all of these bonuses too. You're going to be able to join 6 months of group coaching, plus get one private 1-hour coaching session with me, which is a $500 value. You can get all of that for just $300. You get access to the private Facebook group, which is now, the live stream is probably over, but the beginning, first 20 minutes of this webinar was live streamed in Facebook. You're going to get a 17 or 18 page document that I call the definitive guide to cross-cultural performance mastery. And you're going to get a library. The library not only includes the 6 modules that we just talked about, but all of the webinars. These are all being recorded. They will be all continually posted in your bonus module section. So having access, lifetime access to this library will give you more and more free content over time. And all of the group coaching sessions, we're going to also chop those up. And when we have interesting discussions, we'll also put those in the library. So even if you miss a coaching discussion or you ask a question and we answer your question in a coaching session that you did not attend, you still have access to that information. And for the people who register in the next 24 hours, and it's the same thing that we did in the last webinar, we give you a free 20-minute private China business advisory coaching session. It really kind of helps you understand all of the things that you want to try to develop by taking this course. And it just really gives you kind of a blueprint and a guideline for actually doing it right, okay? Getting the most out of the course. All right, so I have to go back here. So this is the way that the registration page actually looks. So what you have to do is you enter a mindset into this coupon code area, and it takes $100 off. So you can get it for $97. If you want to add the group coaching 6 months, you just check this box right here and you complete your order. Now, you'll also get many other options for coaching other than this one, and those will all be emailed to the people who actually registered for this webinar. All right, so this is basically a short introduction of all the things that you need to consider in order to properly manage your employees, to lead your employees, to reduce your frustrations, to make employees more loyal, and ultimately, if you can get the discretionary efforts of your local Chinese employees, you will be amazed at the ROI that you will be able to achieve, because Chinese people are really, really savvy and they can help you get a lot done, but you have to be on the same team, you have to be on the same side, and you do that through developing real Guanxi relationships. Even though they report directly to you and it's a hierarchical culture, Guanxi is still the key to crushing it in China, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is we're going to get into the Q&A. So I'm gonna stop the share screen.
Yeah, I've been here all the time, all great stuff. Thanks, Gene. I just decided to stop my video during the session that you were giving.
Oh, okay, that's no problem at all. So, you know, Michael, you've been in China for over 20 years. You've managed a lot of employees, probably still manage a lot of employees now. Did anything that I said today kind of make sense based on your experiences?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that really make sense, and I think the one that's you know, really pertinent to today's environment in China is actually that differentiation within generations, and the younger people and the mindset that they have is quite different from older people. You highlighted that very well.
Now, do you have personal experience with younger Chinese people being more kind of argumentative and confrontational?
Well, not so much as argumentative, but over time, when I say over time, I mean there was a difference that I was seeing between, say, 2007 through to, you know, 2012 that was becoming more pronounced, which was that we were employing a number of fresh graduates and younger people, you know, around the age of 25, a little bit younger. And we were in Dongguan, and they weren't really interested. They were looking it appeared that young people in China had turned themselves on to a work-life balance mentality. And so they weren't really interested in working additional hours or applying themselves at work, the same as people of the generation prior. Argumentative, not so much argumentative. I've been very fortunate not to engage within or not to end up in situations where an argument has followed. But certainly differences of opinion, much stronger differences of opinion. Yes.
Now, did you ever encounter kind of like, circular discussions, not argumentative, but, just trying to get answers? You're getting a circular conversation. It seems to be a lot of excuses and a lack of taking personal responsibility. Do you get
that's happening all the time. That's still the case. If I want an answer to a question, I'm not going to ask one person that question. I'm actually going to seek the answer from several different sources. And, I'm not really, this circular kind of conversation, like in an inquiring way, you're never really going to get the answer in a direct fashion. Nobody wants to, it's almost as if they don't really understand the reason for your question. But I don't believe that's the real situation. I think that people don't, I'm guessing, I'm making a guess, but I think it might be that people don't want to have the responsibility of giving you the truth.
Yeah, you have more experience than me. So the things that your experience is, exactly what I would expect. And you've been doing business for 20 years. So for the people who are just coming to China now, it's going to be culture shock when they can't get a direct answer to a direct question. Foreigners will just be frustrated and they won't know how to navigate that. For people like you, who've been there for 20 years is a long time. You've basically become really accustomed to the Chinese way of communicating.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for the highlight that you're giving to my experience. Even after 20 years, I don't really consider myself. I consider that every day is still a learning exercise, and so when it comes to I'm meeting people who are in China for fresh in China or here to do project build, usually associated with some product development. A lot of makers, and these kind of frustrations. Sometimes in my interaction with them, I realize I've become accustomed to it, and I'm not really accepting of it. I've just found different, coping mechanisms about it. I sort of I'm expecting not to get the answer in a direct way. So the frustrating aspect of it, I've sort of like been able to control that within myself, but I can see it very much so with others.
Yeah, well, I just want to point out to the other people who are listening, of course this is also being recorded, is when I coach other executives and people in China, one of the things that I always say that's really important is how do you manage and adjust your own attitude, mindset, approach? And what you just expressed is exactly the right attitude that you should have. I just really want to applaud you for having the flexibility and the understanding that, there's always something to learn. And if you want to succeed in a country as complex as China, you have to be a student when you are a teacher, because that's the attitude that is going to enable you to develop these closer Guanxi relationships. If you're always on kind of this high horse, if you're a foreign manager, then you're just really building walls. And you still do that. So I really applaud you for that. Do you have anybody else who wants to say something, just type it in the chat, and then I can call you to come in. I'm just going to keep on chatting with Michael. Do you have any kind of questions about anything related to China business or related to what we talk about that I could maybe share some insights on?
Yeah, I don't have any prepared questions, and I don't have any right now off the bat that's going to help us with our conversation at the moment. Maybe later as it comes to me. But right at this moment, Gene, I don't have any questions.
Okay, well, if you do, you can always post them in the Facebook group. By the way, how many modules have you gone through in the course now?
So I've done the 2 modules.
Okay.
And I think the 3rd one's coming.
Third one, well, they're released one a week. So depending on when you...
Yeah, when I started. Okay. So I've done 2 modules, and in this coming week, I'll be doing module 3.
Okay. Well, I hope you are finding the modules kind of interesting, at least, because, you're probably somebody who has a lot of experience who could be kind of teaching all of us. So what I really hope is that once we get more people into the class, that they're asking questions in the Facebook group, that you also share kind of your experience and your insights, because that will really, really be helpful.
Yeah, I think the real value is there when we have those kind of sharing of experiences. I mean, today in this Q&A, we also have some other people here who are in China at the moment, like I am. So, the sharing of experiences over the years, that's where I've tended to learn the most, is from other people's experiences.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think there are 4 other people still on this Q&A. Do any of you want to jump in and ask any questions?
Not at the moment. Okay.
Oh, there's one. Hey, Chris.
Hey. I don't really have a question so far as I think I have a comment.
Oh, okay.
Some of these things you're talking about, kind of like how people kind of avoid the answer, I've kind of run into sparingly, and here in the States a little bit. So some of these things are almost universal, like how you pinpointed them out on the PowerPoint there. How people can get emotional, and there's a few other things there. So although I think it's more to an extreme, which is why you have this course when it comes to people in China, but it is kind of funny how maybe some of these things can transfer over to everyday situations of leadership and work life.
No, Chris, you're absolutely right. In fact, it was actually a struggle for me in the beginning, because it's almost like I'm combining 3 different things into one course, and eventually I just made the course about doing business in China, or what I say, crushing it in China. But all the things that we talk about in becoming what I call a master of cross-cultural performance, developing the essential soft skills about awareness and empathy and how to influence perceptions, that works across. It works in any culture. And one of the things that I've discovered that it really, really works, works across genders. Okay. It helps in your personal relationship with your significant other, because people of different genders also kind of have a different perspective and a different culture, and a lot of times emotionally are affected differently by different things. And that's a microcosm of what happens when people like us, Americans or Westerners, go to China. It's just the values, the emotions, the things that trigger emotions, the things that Chinese care about. They care about their face, they care about Guanxi, they care about all of these things that in your culture you may think, well, I don't really care about that. Why would you care about that? Those are the things that you don't understand if you don't develop this level of empathy, cultural awareness for this group of people that you're working with. So yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah. So thank you for jumping in. There's 2 more non-video participants. Do you guys want to, I don't know who you are, so you want to jump in and make a comment, ask a question? You can even ask Michael a question. Michael's in China. He's been there for 20 years. He could probably also share a lot of really interesting insights. And this is a rare opportunity. Once we start getting into the course and we have the group coaching sessions, we really want, we want not just me sharing my opinion on what works or doesn't work in China, but we want all of these other Chinese experts kind of collaborating and sharing ideas on what strategies work and what strategies don't work. So Michael, you're one of the early people who joined the course, but this course is going to build over the next year. We're really going to try to build a community of people who are passionate about doing business in China and how do they navigate those complexities. So I just want to say thank you very much for being one of the early adopters and coming on board. And we really look forward to what we're going to be able to create and develop over the next 6 months, 2 years. I mean, this is kind of something that I'm really passionate about. So we're going to be doing this for a long time. The other,
yeah, maybe I should mention why I joined the course.
Absolutely.
The reason that I joined this course is because that I'm looking to gain from the experience of others, and also I have a lot of respect for yourself, Gene, and your experience, which is in a very large organization. You have a real ability to be able to use case studies and impart that valuable information. So that's why I joined this course, because I do believe that there's always something of value to be learned. I mentioned that earlier, and I have a number of new ventures that are starting, and so this difference, China is developing so fast. So what was true maybe 15 or 20 years ago may not be so relevant today unless you applied it to a certain generation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That is a really, really important statement for all the listeners out there. It's just something that was true in China 10 years ago may not be true today,
Yeah.
especially behaviorally when you're talking about the younger generation. One of the things that I always advise any foreigner doing business in China, number one, is, of course, not to judge what you disagree with, but it's also important not to look at things in absolutes. When you want to be successful in China, it's really important to understand what is the trend. Because China changes so fast. What was true yesterday may not be true tomorrow. But one of the ways to actually make better strategic business decisions is actually to look at what the trends are. Okay. I always talk about trends. I don't talk about absolutes. I don't say, okay, people in China are like this, people in China are like this. I talk about what is trending. More and more people in China are starting to care more and more about the work-life balance. More and more people in China want to take vacations now. So there's a huge market for people who want vacations. More and more people in China care about this. They care about their health, right? So if you're serving healthy food, or you're offering fitness classes in your organization, or you're giving people breaks to actually go out for a walk, this may be more valuable than money, because now people are starting to, a lot of large companies are already employing a lot of these strategies, giving people, longer paid maternity leave, giving even male paid maternity leave, whatever it used to be 10 years ago. You can kind of jump in on this. It used to be like 10, 15 years ago. Most companies, foreign companies in China, they had one set of strategic human resource benefits and practices in their home country, and then they had a separate one for China, because they almost subconsciously felt that, well, I don't need to give Chinese so many benefits or so many perks. That is a trend that is changing. Now, the really innovative companies that are doing well in China, they basically translate all the benefits over, because it's a small world and people communicate, people travel back and forth. If the Chinese feel that, okay, my counterpart in Japan is getting this benefit, but I'm not, wow, that's going to cause a huge potential backlash with your local employees. So strategically, it just makes sense to give China and the Chinese employees kind of like equal benefits. And that's just the baseline as far as how you want to develop your strategic human resource strategy. Yeah, so I'm sure, Michael, you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually, engrossed in listening to you there. Yeah, there was a couple of thoughts that I had just before, which is, you know, sometimes I get people say to me, "Oh, you've been here, you know, you've been in China such a long time. You've benefited because you got there early." But actually, I say the right time is now. You know, if you arrived in China yesterday, you're in the right place at the right time, with almost all the right resources. If you're someone who's arriving next week, then I still think you're here at the right place at the right time, because there are actually more opportunities in China today than there were before. Although as an expat, maybe you know, the opportunities for employment are much more specialized and a little more limited. But certainly, if you've arrived today or tomorrow, you're in the right place at the right time. Getting here early was not necessarily any great benefit.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more, Michael. The opportunities in China are tremendous. I just want to add that the difference between like 10 years ago and 15 years ago. So I'm just going to use myself, for Americans, the opportunities 10 or 15 years ago were to be expat managers for large corporations to assign you over. And your value to the organization was, number one, your understanding of the company's processes and SOP, the understanding of the company's technology, and your understanding of the company culture, and your ability to speak English because you're from an American company. That advantage is now almost completely gone. That's why Michael says, you know, the opportunities for expats are less and less, because you have to be able to demonstrate some value beyond being a foreigner with a foreign face and being able to speak English. Okay. In modern China today, and the trend, if you don't have the ability to deliver some unique value proposition, or the ability to get things done in China, or you have some very specialized technical skill or knowledge, you won't be able to survive in China because you don't deliver value, right? You know,
Yeah, that's so true.
Being a foreigner was value enough. That is gone these days.
Yeah, that is so very, very true. And in fact, I'm constantly looking at where my value is, you know, to try and stay on top of that, because it is so very important. Just being a foreigner is you know, there's no real value in just being an expat like there was years ago. You have to have a clear understanding of what your value is, what value you're bringing, and where you're going to add value in a transaction or in a business sense here in China. That's really good.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I just figured out how to see who else is on this call. So I see Jason and I see Maya. If you guys, Jason, you're unmuted. Welcome you to.
No. I'm muted. Yeah, I'm Chinese, so and I'm curious and what you will present. But my biggest feeling is you really understand China culture well, and I guess your parents are Chinese, and so you can get something from them, right? So I agree with Michael's comments, and today is best, yeah, and tomorrow also you will have the new opportunity. And right now, even we see, even for the online shopping and Alibaba, the Alipay, and you think they are well developed, and they provide the different service and really convenient for the people. And you know, tomorrow maybe you also can create some new thing. And if I go back to see and the service I get from the company, for different company, I can easily find that the many painful point, many of unmet needs, many of service, and need to be how to say, to be improved. Something maybe very basic, like for the healthy food, you just mentioned that the healthy and the quality, the material quality, and like for the service, and this is why the Chinese people like go to Japan, because they can get the service in polite way, and they can get the respect from the waiter. That's the basic thing, but still lack of still missing in the China. So I think many opportunity, many new chance, and need the foreign company can come to China to explore. This is my feeling. And for you, I think you really present a very good culture difference from your perspective, and I fully agree with them. And I'm also working in the multinational company, and my feeling is sometimes, and when I communicate with my supervisor from the Western country, and we are speaking in different language. It's not English or Chinese. We speak different language. We are not in the same page. We are talking maybe she just understand the surface of my language, but couldn't understand the underground thing. Yeah, this is my feeling, and yeah.
So Jason, first of all, I want to thank you for joining this webinar. And I also want to thank you for sharing your opinion. It's very, very important for all the listeners out there. Jason is the type of person that you need to understand how to develop close Guanxi relationships with. One thing that you can understand for people who are listening right now, whether it's on Facebook or on Zoom, is Jason speaks excellent English. Okay, but he just said something that I think is very, very important. He says that with his foreign manager, they don't speak the same language. But it's not that they don't speak English, it's they don't have a way of communicating with each other that's effective. They end up talking over each other or around each other or to each other, as opposed to being able to listen and really understand each other. So, Jason, I would actually recommend you to recommend your boss to take my course.
Yeah, if the company can afford the budget, maybe.
Well, if they're operating in China, it's only $97 to take the course. Very, very cheap.
Yeah, but the multinational company, the big company, they also have some rules and regulations. They need to pick the preferred vendor. It's really a big.
Actually, for the price the price of the course is only a fraction of what a foreign manager would spend in any one evening. Either having a social drink or even at a dinner. So it's all relative, isn't it?
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Jason, since we got you on the phone or we got you on the call, what question do you have about how you might be able to improve the way that you communicate with your foreign manager? And you can ask the question in Chinese, I'll translate.
OK。
普通话没有问题。
我觉得最大的一个问题是，我觉得就是我工作有8年了，然后我觉得最大的一个问题是，西方人跟中国人建立不起真正的信任，这是我最大的感觉。
你在同一个公司干了8年吗？还是换了工作？
有2、3个公司，有欧洲公司，有美国公司。我觉得最大的问题是，就是
现在是在哪个国家的公司？
在美国里来。
现在美国的公司
伊莱里里啊，对，是一个制药公司。然后我就觉得，甚至说公司的一些中高层啊，甚至就是 director 以上级别的很多人，他们跟他们的国外的老板都没办法有一个真正的信任，互相之间，这是给我的一个感觉。这种信任可能平时的时候你感觉不到，但是等到了比如说有重大的决定的时候，或者是有 reorg 的时候， 就是架构调整的时候，你会觉得，就是很多中国人会觉得，老外的老板就非常残忍，可能就会做一些决定，甚至说凌驾你之上，甚至说一些这种 decision making body 就 never 给你，或者 budget 永远控在手里。我不知道这种不信任是因为 culture 决定的，还是因为这种模式决定的？就是它是一个 headquarter 在国外，但你只是他的一个 affiliate， 就是他永远没办法信任你。我不知道是人决定的还是架构决定的。
回答这个问题之前，我先请问，就是您个人，你认为在这家公司伊莱莉莉在中国最大的挑战是什么？从您个人的角度，
我说实话，我个人觉得在伊莱莉莉最大的挑战是跟中国员工的沟通。我跟他们一样的，就是中国员工，就是平常的沟通的时候，其实是比较麻烦的。你说的太对了，就是你今天你不停的跟他们讲这个 trend， 确实是这样。就是现在很多人开始去了解中国人，但是呢，他其实又不了解中国人，因为中国人不同的省份不一样，不同的年龄阶段不一样。甚至说今天80后是这样，可能到了10年以后的80后又是另外一个样子，是一个快速变化当中。你如何去在你的管理当中，就是去怎么跟他们进行融合，了解他们的语言，这个是一个很困难的过程。但是我刚才讲的是我跟
你的直线老板是中国人还是外国人？
老外，我的直线老板是老外，就我跟他在日常沟通是非常清楚的，因为我们聊天都基本上是 down to point， 就是非常清楚，就是工作的话，就是老外一般都是很直接嘛，就是讲事情，就 focus 在事情上，或者是谈论事情也 based on fact， 这是我喜欢的地方。但是往往在一些重大的决定的时候，你会发现他其实是不信任中国员工的，他还是就是很难跟他建立起一种真正的信任。就是中国人的那种信任，我不知道这里面的原因是什么。
我这个原因很简单，其实您讲的这个状况，其实这个就是外国人对中国人有您一样的感受，他们也是觉得说，我怎么跟中国人沟通，我都也没有办法建立这个彼此双方的信任。
对，
你现在讲的这些东西，其实我很清楚，因为我老婆。我们在上海的时候，他是在上海罗氏上班，所以中国药企内部的一些问题，我个人也非常非常的清楚。如果你直接上面的老板是外国人，这个其实是双方的，就是说你跟他感觉永远有这个，好像这个不是同一个语言，价值观不一样。没有办法信任彼此，但是表面上的关系大家都好像不错，这是一个非常非常频繁的状况。
对。
你现在在这个公司已经多久了？你这个老板跟他多久
了？半年多吧。
半年多。所以信任是这样子，信任是时间来取换的。所以。我们外国人感觉，我们外国人常常感觉说中国人没有耐心，都太急了。外国人的感觉，中国人感觉是什么？中国人感觉就像您，外国人好像对我们没有信任，所有的决定权都把握在自己的手里，我们也看不出来为什么他们会做这个决定，然后公平不公平，这个就是文化的差异。
就是外国人和人之间的距离感要长一点，对吧？比中国人。
不是，这个就是这个就是说，我跟外国人讲说，外国人要有同理心，要有 empathy。我跟中国人在讲的时候也是一样，你要了解外国人的文化，你要了解外国人的价值观，你要了解你们中国人彼此之间很容易信任彼此，很容易建立好关系，但是你跟外国人有这个文化的差异，其实这个是双方的。有的时候我常常跟外国人讲这句话，我也常常要跟中国人讲这句话，我常常跟我老婆讲这句话，就是有的时候 吃亏就是占便宜。
对对，
有的时候，如果你是看长期的，你稍微委屈一点，你就可以跟你的老板的关系再进走一步。
对的。
我发觉就是从我老婆是中国人，然后之前在上海罗氏，她最吃亏的地方就是她看的是她面前的东西，她看的不是长远的东西。外国人他们想看的是什么？他们想了解哪个中国的员工可以有一个长期的眼光。我们用英文讲 ，We want to understand which local Chinese employee has a big picture view。你知道，有个就是中国可能最出名的咨询公司叫McKinsey。
你可以用英文，这样也可以照顾线上的。
Michael 也
用英文，他可以听得懂。OK， 好，
可以的，没问题。我知道现在刚才你们是讲是为了 trust，the trust building of trust， 对吧？
对。Michael 在中国已经20多年了，他没问题。我想讲的就是 McKinsey， 就是前几年他去做他常常会发这些问询去访谈所有外资企业在中国的CEO 跟 HRD，CEO 和 HRD 访问了2000个外资企业在中国，问他一个问题：中国员工最缺的是什么东西 ？What is the most lacking characteristic or skill of your local Chinese employees? This was a McKinsey survey of 2,000 China CEOs and China HRDs, Human Resource Directors。你知道这个答案是什么？这是从外国人的角度。外国人的角度 ，McKinsey 的问询，答案是 Chinese people lack or Chinese employees lack big picture view。你要想想看，如果我是伊莱莉莉，我要选一个人去送他到国外去做国外的培训，对不对？去做这个 global rotation， 把你送到美国，让你在美国单位工作一段时间，再把你调回来，然后再让你升级去做一个更大的、更高级别的领导。中国人本身跟我文化也不一样，沟通也是鸡同鸭讲，牛头不对马嘴。我要选谁啊？对不对？所以，如果你要你的老板选你，你要有耐心，你也要调整你自己的心态、思维跟方法。因为外国人在中国，都是在寻找哪个中国人想法比较能跟我一致。对。那如果中国人都在抱怨说，啊，我跟我老板沟通怎么，好像他也不听我的，他也不信任我的，他什么东西我都不告诉我。那这2个人就永远没有办法关系拉近。你控制不了别人，但是你可以调整你自己怎么去面对别人。
对。
其实我的课程是给外国人，我告诉外国人为了在中国要做生意的话，要了解中国的文化，要了解中国的国情，要调整自己的心态、思维跟方法。这是我告诉外国人的，因为外国人只能控制他自己，他要跟中国人拉近关系，他要让中国的员工忠诚度更高的话，可能就要透过这种心态跟思维的调整。从中国人的角度也是一样的，你要跟外国人拉近关系的话，那你先调整你的心态、思维跟方法，看你能不能让你的老板感觉你是看 big picture， 你是看长期的。
对，非常有用，谢谢。
所以欢迎你每次都来参加我们的 webinar， 让我们美国的朋友感受到中国人的看法，因为我们最终的目标 就是因为这个课主要是给外国人，我们最终的目标就是去了解外国人，让外国人了解中国人的想法。所以，
对，
您今天来，我觉得非常非常的荣幸，你可以加入我们的 webinar。
谢谢，我会认真考虑一下。谢谢。
把我的链接发给你的老板，看他接受这方面的培训。只要就像 Michael 讲的，出去吃一碗饭，喝一个酒，就比我的课的之前就已经超过了。
但是你这个解决的可能是他一个很困扰的问题，对的，就是我觉得有很多那种老外如果 oversee 这个亚太这个区域的，我觉得他都会有你说的那种困扰，对的。
肯定会啊，你的困扰也是他的困扰。
对的。
你们两个之间没有这个信任，没有这个关系，他也有同样的感觉。
对。
他也不知道怎么解决。
Yeah, it's kind of really interesting to hear it like that, because that's the exact situation, which is that Chinese people have very, very similar difficulties working with foreigners and understanding foreigners, building trust or gaining trust, and this kind of dynamic. The key here is about being able to find within yourself some kind of empathy in order to help to build on that relationship with the objective of getting, the mutually aspired to outcome. So in a work setting, it's because you're trying to achieve some preset or predetermined objectives, and you're all working together at it. In actual fact, the way to succeed is being able to work together in an efficient way in that cross-cultural setting, using each other's or bridging each other's weaknesses and using each other's strengths in order to get there together. It's not don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's something that I achieve, because I'm constantly trying to do it, but I do take those moments to ask myself a few questions, which is, what is the other person's perspective? What are they thinking of? What are their difficulties? And how can I work to help to resolve those, or check to make sure that my what I'm perceiving is real or not real? Because the way that you look at it and what you hear, like Jean says, what people are saying to you, that's not what's really going on in any one situation. So uncovering it is just. So I agree with Jean. Jason, your participation and your involvement in this webinar is just so very, very useful, because this completes the coin as if it is, and we remember that a coin doesn't have two sides. People say it's the other side of the coin, but a coin really doesn't have two sides. There's three sides to a coin. There's your perspective, my perspective, and that third side is where the real gold is, because in there is where that mutual understanding and that mutual benefit is.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
You're going to have to excuse me, gentlemen. It's been a great webinar. Thank you, Jean. Thanks, Jason. Nice meeting you here, Chris. And enjoy the day. We'll see you when we see you next time.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you,
Michael.
I think this has been a great webinar. Thank you for your participation. I'll see you in the Facebook group.
Okay. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. So thank you, Chris, for also sticking around.
No problem.
Thank you, Jason, for joining in. 现在是你工作时间吧？
对，谢谢啊，谢谢，非常有
反正回头再联系。你现在也知道所有联系方法。
好的。
问题我们就继续交流。
对，我也有看到你在 YouTube 上的那个视频呀之类的。好，谢谢。
好。
后面我会多给你推荐这种课程，因为在上海这边有好多老外选择在这儿创业， 他们都会有同样的困扰。谢谢。
对，如果你可以把这个推销给你，就是你依赖丽丽的老板的话，那这个东西就是他们最需要这个东西。
对，因为有一些，比如我之前在一个德国公司，我有听说过他们，因为那家公司呢，他们有专门的有一个 workshop，就讨论如何跟日本人，就是开会。因为日本人开会往往喜欢充分讨论，然后你问他什么问题，他就说，还就 yes yes，实际上他都没听懂，或者他不同意你，他不说，就是给他们造成了很大很大的困扰。但是其实，就是可能中国人跟他们的那个文化的区别呢，因为中国人已经去迎合他们，就是一时之间可能让他感觉不到那种很大的冲突，但是实际如果放时间拉长一点，比如放1年时间，他其实这里面中国人有很多那个话就不说，藏在心里，然后很多这种expectation 也好 unmet needs 都不说，其实造成的问题更大。其实是一样，但是他可能一下子意识不到，就像他们跟日本人的那种冲突那么大。因为中国人喜欢迎合别人，而且中国人现在说英文的也越来越多，然后也看美国电影，就是在这种欧美的文化下长大，就是一时之间给他一种错觉，好像中国人好像还蛮了解我们的，实际不是这样，实际大家还是很不一样的。对，所以我觉得你这个课程非常非常有用，非常非常有用。
谢谢。可能有机会多帮我传一下，尤其是传给你们外国人那边公司的外国人。
好的，好呀，好的，好，
那谢谢你，
谢谢啊，谢谢，我先下线，拜拜。
拜拜。